Hey, all you Gretas and Shutezcats out there. Welcome to Chapter 7, Section 1. Notes: what causes extinction and what are its impacts? So this is the last chapter we'll be doing this semester. Extinction. The human population has been growing exponentially, as we've talked about, and the the rates of species extinction has also increased as we have more humans. More humans, more dead stuff. By the end of the 21st century, the extinction rate is predicted to be 10,000 times higher than before we had a whole lot of humans on this planet. So humans are the main reason for species going extinct. So extinctions are part of, let's move me down just a little bit. Extinctions are part of Earth's history. Species that are no longer be found on Earth have suffered what is called biological extinction. There is no more, they are all gone, dead. Mass extinction is when you have an extinction of a bunch of different species in a fairly short period of time. Over history of the planet, we have had 5 mass extinctions. So we look at the different geological history in the rocks and the fossils, and we know that we have had 5 periods in the past where 50 to 90% of the species have been wiped out, and then the world kind of starts over. So after each mass extinction, biodiversity returned and was often higher than before. Think about all those niches and areas and habitats that are now available for something else. Now, recovery took millions of years. This isn't like an overnight process. So this is over the history of the planet, over the last 4 billion years, and the 5 mass extinctions that have taken place. Now we have what is called a natural background extinction rate. This is fewer than 1 species are lost per year. Actually 0.1 species. So every 10 years or so we lose a species. And that's our natural background extinction rate. And that started speeding up when humans started doing more stuff when humans happened, about 200,000 years ago. Now, the current extinction rate is higher than this. It's somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000 times the background extinction rate. So we're losing at least 100 extinctions per million species. So it's a lot more. And this is signaling what is called the 6th mass extinction, and this is totally 100% driven by humans. So you can see over the years we have things dying, but in this last little chunk of time, the last 100 years or so, we've lost a whole lot more critters. Bad. So what does this mean? Somewhere between 25 and 50% of the world's 2 million identified species, as well as millions of unidentified species, hard to do lecture notes on Fridays, as well as millions of unidentified species could be extinct by the end of the century. So most big cats, along with elephants, rhinos, gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, will disappear from the wild. We may have them in captivity, but as far as in the wild, you may have to be explaining to your kids what a polar bear was, what an orangutan was, what a koala bear was, these giraffes. These are all very viable things that may go extinct in your lifetime if we don't do something about it. So obviously we need to save these species, especially the keystone species. Think about from 2 chapters ago when we talked about that, in order to reduce the human impact on both biodiversity and ecosystem services. So our actions are causing these things to go extinct, but they are helping out not only us, but the planet. So our projected extinction rates may be too low. They're thinking that it might be up to 10,000 times the background rate, or even higher. So when you have what are called these biodiversity hotspots, and that's where tons and tons of critters happen and exist. Biodiversity is crazy busy there. So if those things have extinction issues, we're wiping out way too many critters way fast. So the rapidly growing human population increases the per capita use of resources. That means how much resources is used per person, which will sharply increase the harmful environmental impacts because we need land to grow food, we need land to store our waste, and all that fun stuff. So extinctions are going to still happen much more quickly than they've happened in the past, but we're still going to take millions of years to recover. So Earth is going to survive. Humans, I don't know if humans are going to survive the Earth. So we need to try to get this extinction thing under control. Species that are vulnerable to extinction. So once again, extinction is all gone. Endangered means that there's so few survivors that they could soon become extinct. So these are the ones we really, really, really need to work on saving because there's not that many left. We also often know exactly how many are left because there's that few. A threatened species is kind of before endangered. So let's say like a D, you're in danger of failing. But if you're at like a C, you might want to start paying attention to what you're doing in your classes and make sure you're turning in all your work. So a threatened species is enough individuals to survive in the short term, but not the long term. So we want to once again be making sure that their situations are okay and they don't go extinct. So some species have characteristics that make them less vulnerable to extinction. More vulnerable to extinction. Low reproductive rate. If you don't make that many babies, it's hard to replace yourself. Having a very specialized niche. If you only eat bamboo and bamboo goes away, you're going away too. Narrow distribution, maybe they're only found in one place, like all those animals on the Galapagos Island. If something happened to the Galapagos, they're gone. High trophic level, so if you're at the top of the food chain, it's sometimes hard to make sure you're getting what you need. Fixed migratory pattern, if you only fly or only travel in one place and then something happens along that route, you could have issues. If you're fairly rare, then humans are stupid and want you as a pet. If you're commercially valuable, so if killing you makes money, people do it. And require large territories. As we're building things and taking down forests, sometimes those large territories get taken down as well. So there might be land there, but not as much as they need. Think like a St. Bernard in a small apartment. It's not going to work. So extinction impacts both biodiversity and ecosystem services. More than half the world's primates, such as orangutans, are endangered. So why should we care, right? It's not us. No big deal. One, they preserve ecosystem services. So things like pollination, and bees are becoming endangered, so watch out. Bees are endangered. Pollination, air and water purification, soil health, various sources of medicine, and people who look up that are called bioprospectors. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. They also preserve economic services. So ecotourism is one aspect that you can make money selling opportunities for people to see nature. And then we have an ethical responsibility to limit extinctions. We are the ones causing it, so we should be the ones in charge of maybe preventing it from continuing to happen. And you have survived your notes. So that's Chapter 7, Section 1 notes. Before I go, I want to let each and every one of you know that you are good enough, you are smart enough, and people do like you. And before I go, if I don't have the chance to tell you, have a good afternoon, good evening, and good God, do your homework.